Are you on that road to retirement? Well, there's some mile markers that you don't want to miss. Do you know what they are? Welcome, Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner, president of Pure Financial Advisor, and of course, I'm with the captain. We call him Big Al Clopine. Hello, Big Al.
I'm the captain now. Okay, I'll take it.
We're on the road to retirement, Al. We need a driver.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm ready. I'm going to drive it.
You're going to drive us home. You're going to drive us home. Hey, when you're thinking about how much money that you need for retirement, take a guess. How much? Most Americans think they need about $1 million. That was last year, 2001. Guess what? A little inflation increased that by 20%. So 2022, 1.2 million that most Americans believe that they need to have a comfortable retirement. Do you have that kind of cash? Well, you need to pay attention to those mile markers on that road to retirement. That's today's financial focus. Most people plan to retire at 66 or later. Right? But in actuality, most people retire a lot younger, 61. Right? So we're thinking, hey, I still have time. I can still save a little bit more money, push out that Social Security. But in reality, we're retiring a lot earlier. So you got to make sure that you're buckled up and ready to go. Let's bring in the big man.
All right, so the mile markers, we're going to take a little drive today. So we're going to look out 20 years from retirement, 10 years from retirement, 5 years, and let's see how you're doing. So starting with 20 years, we got to focus on what you're spending now. Are you saving enough? We'll kind of go through some calculations there. Then 10 years out, what are you invested in? What's your asset location? Right? What kind of tax plan do you have? And then we get into 5 years. What's that withdrawal strategy? Do you have enough benefits to be able to get through? So, Joe, I think this is going to be kind of a fun show because people sort of need to know where they're at different points, kind of make sure they're on track.
Yeah, without question, because, I mean, you should be looking at this all the time.
For sure.
Right. But when you start your journey, let's say you got 20 years to retirement, you want to make sure that you're taking a look at, all right, well, am I on track? Or what do I need to do to get on track? And I think savings is the key, right? Pay yourself first. So 20 years out from retirement, you probably want close to 5 times your annual income in a nest egg. So if you're making $100,000 a year, Big Al, you need...
Better have 500,000.
Got 500 grand.
Easy enough math, and if you're 10 years out, maybe 700,000. 5 years out, maybe 900,000. You kind of fast forward to 65 or 67. Maybe at retirement 10 times, 12 times. These are not gospel. This is just kind of a quick rule of thumb. If you're like one-time salary and 2 years to retire, you got some work to do, right? On the other hand, if you're 20 times salary and you got 15 years to go, you're in pretty good shape. So this will give you an idea kind of where you stand.
Let's start here. Retirement and income shortfalls in projected savings needs. So we're 20 years out. So here are the mile markers that we want to make sure that you're taking a look at. Retiring in 20 years. Here's really good math in calculations that you can do at home. It's pretty easy. Let's say you're currently spending $80,000 a year. This could be 60, it could be 180. It doesn't matter. I just want to show you the math. Retirement spending. You want to make sure that you inflate this number. So $80,000. I'm not retiring tomorrow. I'm retiring in 20 years. So I have to inflate that $80,000 to future dollars. So let's use a 3% inflation rate. So that $80,000 is now $144. Okay. So then I want to do some benefit projections. Do I have Social Security? Am I going to have a pension? Maybe I have some real estate income. Whatever your fixed income sources are going to be, and then just inflate those out as well. So 80,000 is my starting point. I inflate that to 144. I look at what other type of benefits that I would receive besides my nest egg in the future, inflate that out, and I'm going to come up with a shortfall. So 144,000 is what I want to spend. 55,000 is what's going to come in to the household as a fixed income. So I'm going to have a shortfall here of about 90 grand.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important calculation, and it's really easy when you're out, 20 years or more out from retirement. Sometimes it's hard to realize that 80,000 that you're spending today, it's not what it's going to be in the future. So to be clear, when you add inflation, the $80,000 is like it's what 144,000 would spend like in 20 years from now using inflation. I know sometimes it's hard to believe. I'm not going to spend more than $100,000, but with inflation 20 years from now, Yes, you will, and you have to plan for that. And when it comes to benefits, Joe, you could use that same inflation rate, but sometimes Social Security doesn't keep up. So sometimes we use like a 2% inflation rate on that just to be more conservative.
Yeah, good point there. So maybe I want to inflate my expenses out a little bit higher, and then my fixed income sources, I want to inflate those a little bit lower just to be conservative, right? So here we are, 20 years in the future, $89,000 shortfall. That is what needs to be derived from the overall portfolio. That is my shortfall from an income perspective. So the good old 4% rule. So the 4% rule basically states that you don't want to take up any more than 4% out of the overall portfolio, right? Probably 3% is probably a little bit better number, but let's just stick with 4% because the math is pretty easy. $89,000. Well, how much will I need as a nest egg? Well, 89 times 25, or if I divide 89 into 4%, I would need $2.2 million. That is my goal as a nest egg to create this scenario. My current savings, let's say it's 5 times that salary. I'm 20 years out. It's 400,000. So I need to get to 2.2 million. Well, now my yearly savings goal would be roughly about $25,000 a year. So just maxing out my 401k plan and maybe a Roth.
And if you're not there or not close to there, start working towards that number to be able to get as close to your retirement goal as possible.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, you want to save anywhere from 10 to 20% of your annual income, right? So if you're nowhere near that, if you're at 5%, well then each year you just want to increase that overall savings, because 25,000, that's a pretty big number. But my shortfall is big too, right? So I need $2.5 million roughly. So of course, over 20 years, you're going to have some pretty good savings. So here's a mile marker. Age 50, 22.5 is the 401k contribution limits, but guess what? Once you reach age 50 and above, you get this catch-up of another 7.5K, so $7,500. So if I can max out the overall 401k plans, let's say I'm 50 years old, I want to retire at age 70, okay, well, I could be on track here, could be on track. So just thinking about different mile markers of what are the things that you need to do. The biggest point of all of this is that you have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan, right? Put things on paper. I want to retire in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, whatever that is, and start thinking about what you're spending, what that spending is going to look like, what your fixed income sources are, and then that can start motivating you to start saving the appropriate dollar figures. And then it's looking at how do you invest it, tax management, or tax manage it, and so on. So if you want help with this, you know where to go, yourmoneyyourwealth.com. Click on that special offer this week. It's our Retirement Readiness Guide. The Retirement Readiness Guide. It's going to walk you through all of these different calculations. You can sit there right in your living room, get your financial plan in order, go to yourmoneyyourwealth.com and click on it now. We got to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about withdrawal strategies, what you need to do at mile marker 10. Hey, welcome back. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. What we're talking about is on that road to retirement, there's mile markers that you're looking at, right? Are you almost there, right? You got kids in the back. Hey, Dad, Mom, are we almost there? Well, are you almost ready for retirement? Are you doing the things that you need to do? If you need help, go to our website, yourmoneyyourwealth.com, and click on that special offer this week. It's our Retirement Readiness Guide. Let's see how you did on that true-false question.
Roth conversions should be done 10 years before you retire. It depends, maybe, maybe not. The quick answer is this. You look at your tax bracket today, right? You look at your tax bracket in retirement. If your tax bracket is the same or lower, you might want to be doing Roth conversions right now. In other words, if your retirement tax bracket's higher. On the other hand, if it's the other way, maybe you don't want to. Maybe you're in a higher income bracket than you will be in retirement. Maybe you don't want to do Roth conversions right now, getting money into a tax-free environment. But Joe, there's so many factors that really go into this, when you do it, how much you do, whether you should do it at all.
Right. If I'm in a low bracket, 0 to 12%, well then yeah, maximize your Roth accounts. If I'm in a middle bracket, okay, well maybe you split them. You go a little bit of Roth and a little bit of pre-tax. If I'm in that high tax bracket, 32 to 37%, well maybe I want to take a look at maximizing all pre-tax. I think this is a good general rule of thumb, but there's a lot more that's entailed in your overall tax strategy. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit more about tax diversification. And then from there, we can talk about your asset allocation. Downsizing your debt. So when you're 10 years out, this is where maybe a little bit more sophistication comes into play, because you're still saving those dollars, but you have to consider that at some point those dollars need to be used for income.
Yeah, and I think it's such a good point, Joe. A lot of people don't realize when it comes to retirement, it depends where your assets are located as to how they're going to be taxed. For example, there's what we call a tax-deferred pool. Tax-deferred pool would be assets that are in a retirement account. The money comes out, you have to pay income taxes on it. You could have a tax-free pool, like a Roth IRA. You pull money out and it's tax-free. And you may have a taxable pool, meaning you already paid taxes on it, so you may not have much to pay, or maybe you have capital gains if you have an asset for a year or longer. And Joe, it makes such a difference on your taxes depending upon where you're holding those assets.
Yeah, because this is the most popular, right? This is your tax-deferred accounts. That's your 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, TSBs. This is where most people have the bulk, if not 100% of your retirement plan savings, right? Because of course, they're called retirement plans. So I'm putting dollars in, I get a nice little tax benefit from here. But what you need to consider is that on the distributions coming out, this is where the IRS is going to get their tax dollars. So for years and years and years, it was like, well, you'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, so just keep funding these accounts. Well, where are tax rates going? Are they going down? Are they going up? Are they staying the same? How much money do you have in your overall tax-deferred accounts? What we're finding now is that some people might actually be in the same tax bracket or higher tax bracket in retirement because they've loaded up so much dollars in these tax-deferred accounts. Because at certain ages, you have to take the money out regardless if you want it or not. And if you pass away, right, well then the kids or the heirs are going to get stuck with that tax. So what you need to consider, are you diversified from a tax perspective? So we talked about Roth IRAs, right? So depending on what tax bracket you're in, does it make sense to forego that tax deduction to put money into an account that will forever grow tax-free? You will never pay another dime in tax on those dollars again. And if you pass away, it goes to the spouse tax-free. If the spouse passes, it goes to the kids or the heirs tax-free. So then it's all right, well, maybe it might make sense to start putting dollars here. Another way to do it is to take some of your tax-deferred monies that you've already saved, your IRAs and 401ks, and move them up here in regards to what is called a conversion. You have to pay the tax when you do this, so that's why tax strategy is critical. But the overall concept is to have money in each of these different pools, so when it comes time to take those distributions, you can mitigate or at least control the taxes on distribution.
Such an important point. So when you think about retirement, so you're going to be in different kinds of tax brackets. So the way the tax brackets work, they start lower and they go higher. So what you really want to do is have your ordinary income, maybe from your 401k, your required minimum distribution, maybe Social Security, that would be taxed in the lower tax brackets, right? So you stay in those lower brackets, but you want to spend more than that, right? So you pull money out of the Roth IRA where you don't pay tax, or you pull money out of your taxable account where you pay a lower capital gain tax. So you're living on a higher level than your tax, and your dollars can stretch a lot more in retirement.
Yeah, I mean, there's just certain levers that a lot of people can pull just to stretch those dollars out several more years, right? And I think tax could be a huge lever for a lot of you. Let's go into the asset allocation component. So we talked about diversification of your taxes. Most people are familiar with diversification of your assets. So what does that mean? Well, I want to have some large companies, right? The big boys, Microsoft, Google, maybe some smaller companies you never heard of that are going to be the future Microsoft or Google, right? Maybe some international equities, right? A little BMW. Fixed income, so that's bonds or safe dollars and some cash. So this is a moderate example, is that, hey, maybe you want 35, 15, 10. This all really depends on what target rate of return that you're shooting for and what is your risk tolerance.
Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot of people try to get the best rate of return they can, which isn't necessarily the wrong strategy, except in some cases people are shooting for the wrong rate of return. For example, let's say you run through your financial numbers and you need to save that $25,000 a year and all you need is 6 or 7% rate of return, then devise a portfolio that is most likely to earn that rate of return. If you are shooting shooting for a 12% rate of return when you need a 7%, it's likely going to be a lot more volatile. You may not end up where you want to.
Let's talk about debt. Snowball, Big Al.
Snowball, yeah. And you know, when it comes to debt, of course, you want to try to get your debt under control at any age. But Joe, there's a couple ways to get debt paid off. You know, the snowball is where you just look at all your credit cards and you take the smallest one and pay it off first, go to the next one. It feels good, right? Because you're knocking these off one at a time. But that may not necessarily be the best way. Maybe you do the avalanche method, which is where you pay the highest interest rate.
Yeah, but I think it's just writing things down again. Right, so I'm approaching retirement. I might have my mortgage, I might have some car debt, I might have credit card debt, maybe I have some other ancillary debt, student loan debt, so on and so forth. Right, and then so the first step is that just rank the debt smallest to largest. Second, then you're going to pay the minimums except for the smallest debt. Wipe that one out and then go to the next, and go to the next, and go to the next, and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can accelerate debt payments. But this is just a kind of maybe a fun way as well, just to look at it, to say, all right, hey, I got this one done. Let's get to the other. And then it kind of motivates us to take action a little bit more.
Another thing is you want to consider different milestone ages, right? When you're maybe 10 years away from retirement, like 55, for example. This is where you can retire with a 401k and start pulling money out. Yes, you'll pay tax on dollars that you pull out, but as long as you retire at 55 or older and you have a 401k, you can draw money out without that 10% penalty. When it comes to an IRA, you got to be 59 and a half, and then also realize, Joe, 62 is the first age generally to receive Social Security.
Hey, I know we're throwing a lot at you today. Don't worry, we got you covered. Go to yourmoneyyourwealth.com, click on that special offer this week. It's our famous retirement readiness guide. Go to the website, yourmoneyyourwealth.com, click on the special offer. It's our retirement readiness guide. Are you ready for retirement? Walking you through all the steps that you need to take to make sure that you can have that great retirement. Yourmoneyyourwealth.com. Hey, when we get back, we're going to wrap the show up. We're going to finish up talking about these milestones on your road to retirement. Hey, welcome back to the program. The show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson and Big Al, we're helping you through that road to retirement. We're looking at mile markers on that road to retirement. If you need help, go to our website, yourmoneyyourwealth.com, and click on that special offer this week. It's our retirement readiness guide. Let's see how you did on that true-false question.
The average monthly Social Security check is $2,000. True or false? Well, I think it's less than that, Joe, but tell us what it is.
$1,690 is an average monthly check in Social Security. So I think this is shocking to some people where, like, hey, I'm going to receive my Social Security check and I should be okay. Social Security was never really meant to replace 100% of your income. So just understand, hey, what is that Social Security benefit? Are you married? Is there a spousal benefit, or what's the spouse's benefit? Is there a survivor benefit, and so on and so forth? So there's a lot of different rules and regs when it comes to Social Security, so you want to make sure that you claim it right.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of Social Security, so we want to spend a little time on that. We also want to spend a little bit of time on withdrawal strategies, but let's start with Social Security, right? So 62 is the earliest you can receive benefits. 67 is the current full retirement age if you're born after 1959. And then 70 is the last year that you actually want to start collecting your benefits. It grows each year, right? For example, if you're going to get $1,000 at full retirement age, 67, well, you're going to get like $700 if you take it early per month, or $1,240 if you wait on the other end.
Let's just assume that you live until age 90. So if I take it to age 62, I want those dollars right away, right? Because I want to utilize those dollars, I want to spend those dollars, I want to party with those dollars, or I want to save those dollars, do whatever that you want. So assume $1,000 a month is your full retirement benefit. If you take it at 62, that's $700 a month, right? So if I look at $700 a month times 12 to 90 years old, I'm going to receive about $316,000 from Social Security over my lifetime. Pretty good number. Well, if I wait until age 67, I get a lot higher benefit, okay? Multiply that again by 12 to 90 years old, almost $400,000 out of the system. Then if I wait until age 70, I'm going to receive $1,240. So significantly more from 70 to age 62, but I had to wait 8 years to receive that overall benefit. But the total benefit that I'll receive, again, if I live until age 90, is about $429,000. If you don't think you're going to live until age 90, well, then you probably are over here, right? If you think you're going to live 90 or later, well, you're probably somewhere on this road.
I think that's well said, because a lot of advisors will say wait till 70, and that's a great answer for a lot of people. But basically, if you think you have a long life, right, and you don't necessarily need the cash flow from Social Security, you might want to wait, right? If you need the cash flow or have impaired life expectancy, maybe you want to take it earlier.
Let's wrap up this segment kind of looking at sequence of return risk. I think a lot of times people don't really understand what it means, but this is two individuals. We got Mike and Alexis. They both start with $1 million. Alexis retires in a bull market, right? But then when Mike retires, the market drops and they're pulling dollars from the overall account. So if you don't have a very good withdrawal strategy or understand what target rate of return that you need, like Alan talked about before, sometimes people take on maybe a little bit too much risk because they don't understand volatility, or maybe they're not taking enough risk to get the return that they need to have this money last. So Mike, he's going to experience a 15% decline in his first 2 years of retirement. You can see, boom, that's going to go down, plus he's drawing dollars from it. Alexis experienced a 15% decline in the 10th and 11th year, right? So Alexis's money is growing, but then it goes, well, you still have about $700,000, where here, you can kind of see the delta and the difference.
That's really a good drawing, Joe. I think the point is this, that you never know when the market's going to do when you retire. So how you kind of prepare for that is you have enough safe investments. Like, for example, markets may go down for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. Have enough safe investments for 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years if you're conservative. Safe investments. Bonds, fixed income type investments, cash. Have enough set aside so no matter what the market does in those periods of time, you can withdraw from that pool of money, let the stocks recover. They will over time, but don't be taking money out of the stock market when it's down. It's hard to recover. And then something else to consider at age 65, that's when Medicare kicks in. Or 67, we already mentioned that's full retirement age.
So what did we learn today? You want to look at those mile markers to make sure that you're on track, given how far you are for retirement, starting with a good savings plan, making sure that you understand what you're spending. Then we get into taxes, asset allocation. Then you look at Social Security withdrawal strategies, and then you put that all together, and guess what? You have a great retirement strategy. You want more help? You know where to go. YourMoneyYourWealth.com. Click on that Retirement Readiness Guide. That's our gift to you. YourMoneyYourWealth.com. Thanks so much for joining another wonderful episode of Your Money, Your Wealth. For Big Al Clopine, I'm Joe Anderson, and we'll see you next time.